Hello, I'm Dr. James Wilson. If you're over 60, your breakfast can do more than warm you up. A single bowl of oatmeal, prepared the right way, can support healthier arteries, steadier blood pressure, and better cholesterol numbers. I'm not talking about miracle powders or strange online trends. I'm talking about everyday foods you can buy in any grocery store and stir into oats in less than a minute. These ingredients have been tested in clinical trials and reviewed by health authorities. Some even qualify for government-authorized heart health claims because the evidence is strong. The reason this matters is simple. With age, fatty deposits and inflammation can thicken the walls of arteries and narrow blood flow, a process called atherosclerosis. That process can raise the chance of heart attack and stroke. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute explains that lifestyle choices, along with the right medication when needed, can slow this process and, in some cases, bring partial reversal. Your morning bowl won't replace your prescriptions, but it can become a steady ally in the plan you and your doctor agree on. Today you'll learn exactly what to stir into oatmeal to make it more heart-smart, how much to use, how it works inside your body, and how to keep it safe if you take common medicines for thyroid disease, diabetes, or blood thinning. You'll also get a simple 4-week plan you can start right away. Most important, I'll remind you where food fits beside medication and clinic follow-up, because real progress comes from a full plan tailored to your history, your numbers, and your goals. Please remember, this is general education, not personal medical advice. Always talk to your doctor or pharmacist before changing your diet or supplements, especially if you take prescription medicines or have kidney disease. After 60, the inside lining of arteries is more vulnerable to small injuries caused by high LDL cholesterol, high blood pressure, smoking history, diabetes, and chronic inflammation. Over time, cholesterol-rich particles can slip under that lining and set off an inflammatory response. The body tries to heal the area, but the scar becomes a plaque that can narrow, flow, or rupture and form a clot. When a plaque grows in the heart's arteries, you may feel pressure with activity. When it grows in the leg arteries, your calves may ache after walking a few blocks. When a plaque ruptures in the heart or brain, the result can be a heart attack or stroke. Atherosclerosis is common, but it doesn't happen at the same speed for everyone. The NHLBI describes it as a long-term condition that responds to steady habits, eating patterns that lower LDL and blood pressure, regular movement, sleep, stress management, and, when indicated, medication that lowers LDL or thins the blood. The goal is to slow plaque growth, keep plaques stable, and reduce the chance of dangerous clots. Oatmeal is a smart base because oats contain a soluble fiber named beta-glucan. When beta-glucan mixes with water in your gut, it forms a gentle gel. That gel binds bile acids, which are made from cholesterol, and carries them out of the body. The liver then needs to pull LDL from the bloodstream to make new bile, which lowers LDL over time. This effect is reliable enough that health authorities on both sides of the Atlantic recognize it. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration authorizes a health claim for soluble fiber from certain foods and reduced risk of coronary heart disease, and a specific rule covers oats and psyllium. The European Food Safety Authority also accepts a claim for oats or barley, providing about 3 grams per day of beta-glucan to lower blood cholesterol. In practice, that means a regular serving pattern that reaches roughly 3 grams of beta-glucan per day can produce a modest but meaningful drop in LDL for many adults. Still, oats alone are only the start. The real advantage comes when you stack add-ins that work along different paths. Some add more soluble fiber and make that gel thicker. Some supply plant omega-3s that can support the ability of the artery wall to relax and may nudge blood pressure down in certain people. Some provide polyphenols, plant compounds that support the health of the vessel lining, and others block cholesterol absorption in the gut so that less LDL ends up in the bloodstream. When you combine these in a regular routine, you create a breakfast that supports the same targets your clinician cares about: LDL, blood pressure, and the function of the vessel lining. Think of oatmeal as the base and the add-ins as the small, steady actions that make the base more effective over weeks and months. One more point about expectations. No food scrubs plaque off artery walls like a brush. That image is popular online, but it isn't how biology works. What we can do, and what studies show over and over, is lower LDL, ease pressure on the vessel lining, and improve how the lining responds to blood flow. That lowers the chance of dangerous events. When you combine an oatmeal-based breakfast with a heart-healthy pattern for the rest of the day, routine movement, and medicines when needed, you give your arteries a calmer environment. Over time, that calmer environment matters. Your numbers show it first. Your energy on a daily walk may show it next. In the long run, your risk chart shows it most clearly. Always keep your care team involved because diet changes work best when they match your medication plan and your lab targets. Let's build the bowl. I will walk you through the 5 add-ins I reach for most often in adults over 60. Ground flaxseed, psyllium husk, walnuts, berries, and either chia seed or a plant sterile product. Along the way, I'll explain what dose has support, how to add it to oats, and what cautions to keep in mind if you take common medications. If a term sounds technical, I'll explain it in plain language. If your situation is unusual, for example, if you have swallowing problems, bowel narrowing, chronic kidney disease, or a complex medication schedule, pause here and speak with your clinician or pharmacist before you begin. This is supposed to help you, not complicate your day. Ground flaxseed is the first add-in I recommend for many seniors. Flax brings 2 kinds of fiber and a plant omega-3 fatty acid called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. The fiber thickens that gentle gel in your gut and supports more consistent bowel habits. The ALA is a fat your body can use as part of the membranes that line cells, including the cells that form the inner surface of arteries. Clinical research suggests that steady flax intake can produce small but meaningful improvements in blood pressure, especially in people who already have hypertension. A recent meta-analysis of randomized trials in hypertensive adults reported reductions in both top and bottom numbers compared with control groups. Those changes are not massive, but they are steady and they show up after months, which is exactly the pattern you can maintain at breakfast. For most people, a safe starting amount is 1 tablespoon of freshly ground flaxseed per day, stirred into hot oats, with a gradual increase to 2 tablespoons as tolerated. Grinding matters because whole seeds often pass through your system without breaking down. If you buy pre-milled flax, check the freshness date and store it sealed. If you take many medications in the morning, try to take pills 1 to 2 hours before or a few hours after a very high-fiber meal, so absorption is consistent. When in doubt, ask your pharmacist for timing that fits the exact pills you take. Psyllium husk is the second add-in, and it is the most powerful fiber for LDL lowering in this list. Psyllium is a soluble fiber made from the husks of Plantago ovata seeds, and it has specific authorization in U.S. regulations for a health claim linking soluble fiber from certain foods to reduced risk of coronary heart disease. In clinical trials, psyllium added to a heart-smart pattern produces significant drops in LDL compared with the same pattern without psyllium. The practical dose for many adults is 5 to 10 grams per day, usually split into 2 servings. In oatmeal, that translates to 1 or 2 teaspoons stirred in at the very end, so it blends smoothly. Because psyllium thickens quickly, eat soon after stirring so your cereal doesn't turn into putty. If you take thyroid medicine, certain diabetes pills, or seizure medicine in the morning, keep a consistent gap between those pills and any large fiber dose to avoid interference with absorption. Your pharmacist can give a schedule that fits your routine. Drink water with psyllium to prevent choking or blockage, especially if swallowing is hard for you. If you have a history of bowel narrowing or strictures, ask your doctor before you start. Walnuts are next. Walnuts bring ALA like flax does, but they also add a satisfying texture and a savory note that can replace butter or sugary toppings. Beyond taste, walnuts have an effect inside the arteries that deserves attention. In a crossover trial of adults with high cholesterol, swapping some of the diet's fat for walnuts improved endothelium-dependent vasodilation. That phrase means the inner lining of the artery relaxed more easily in response to normal blood flow. This is one of the earliest features that suffers in atherosclerosis, and it plays a role in day-to-day blood flow to the heart and brain. A small handful of walnuts, about an ounce chopped and sprinkled over oats several mornings per week, is a good place to start. If you take a blood thinner, this change is still usually fine, but always tell your anticoagulation clinic when you modify your diet in a noticeable way so they can watch your blood tests closely. If weight loss is your goal, measure the portion because nuts pack calories into a small volume. If you have a tree nut allergy, skip walnuts and pick another add-in from this list. Berries fit beautifully into hot cereal. Blueberries, strawberries, and mixed berries provide fiber and a group of plant compounds called polyphenols. These compounds support the ability of arteries to relax, and several randomized trials suggest improved function of the vessel lining after weeks of daily blueberry intake in adults with risk factors. Some trials see clear changes in flow-mediated dilation, a standard way to measure how well an artery relaxes, without a consistent drop in systolic pressure for everyone, while other research points to small reductions in the bottom number in certain groups. The practical lesson is simple. If you enjoy berries, they upgrade the bowl with flavor and add a nudge in the right direction for the arterial lining. Aim for half a cup to a full cup of unsweetened berries in your oatmeal. If you use frozen berries, stir them into the hot oats for a few minutes to create a warm fruit compote without added sugar. If you take insulin or pills for diabetes, remember to count the carbohydrate from the fruit and keep your usual monitoring plan. If you have advanced kidney disease, ask your renal dietitian about fruit portions that fit your potassium limits. For the fifth slot, you can choose chia seeds or a plant sterol product, and it is perfectly reasonable to rotate them across the week. Chia acts a lot like flax. It thickens the cereal, adds fiber, and supplies ALA. Studies suggest small improvements in LDL and systolic pressure at higher daily intakes over several weeks. Start with 1 tablespoon stirred into your oats and increase to 2 as tolerated, while drinking enough fluid through the day. Hydrate chia before you eat if swallowing is difficult for you. If you prefer a non-seed option with a stronger LDL effect, use a plant sterol or stenol product. Plant sterols are naturally present in small amounts in seeds, nuts, and vegetable oils. Fortified foods and supplement granules deliver enough to block cholesterol absorption in the gut. Meta-analyses show that roughly 2 grams per day, often split between meals, lower LDL by about 8 to 12% on average. Some studies suggest a dose-response curve with a little more effect at higher intakes, but most guidance suggests 2 grams per day as a reasonable target for everyday use. If you take zetamib or other cholesterol drugs, ask your doctor whether adding sterols makes sense for you and whether there are any timing instructions. If you have the rare condition cytostarolemia, you should avoid these products. Now let's put the pieces together in plain meals you can repeat. Picture 3 oatmeal bowls that you rotate. The first is the LDL bowl. Oats prepared with water or milk you tolerate, 1 tablespoon of psyllium stirred in right before serving, a tablespoon or 2 of ground flaxseed, and a warm swirl of unsweetened blueberries. This bowl layers beta-glucan from oats, soluble fiber from psyllium, and extra fiber and ALA from flax. If you eat this version most days for 8 to 12 weeks and keep the rest of your diet steady, less saturated fat, more vegetables and beans, it is common to see a few percentage points drop in LDL on your next lab. Keep your expectations grounded. The change will be modest on its own but meaningful when added to your full plan. The second is the vessel function bowl. Oats topped with 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed, a small handful of chopped walnuts, and sliced strawberries or mixed berries. This one focuses on the ability of arteries to relax and on satiety, which helps you avoid sugary toppings. Many people tell me they stay full until lunch with this blend, and that alone cuts down on mid-morning snacks that can raise blood sugar and add calories they don't need. If you check your pressure at home, you may notice a small improvement over a month or 2 with this pattern. especially if you also walk daily and limit sodium at other meals. If you take a statin or other cholesterol medication, keep taking it exactly as prescribed. Food supports the medicine. It doesn't replace it unless your doctor directs that change. The third is the sterile bowl. Oats finished with a measured portion of plant sterile granules per the label to help you reach about 2 grams per day across your meals, plus a tablespoon of chia and a half cup of raspberries. Some sterile products blend best with cold foods. Others stir well into warm cereal right at serving. Check your product's instructions and test a small amount before you commit to a routine. If you already take ezetimibe, which works by blocking cholesterol absorption, talk with your doctor about whether sterols will add much more for you. In some cases, the combination makes sense. In others, medication is already doing the heavy lifting, and the sterols aren't necessary. Keep the focus on your LDL target and what it takes to reach it. People often ask how quickly they'll see results. For digestion and fullness, the answer is immediate. For LDL and blood pressure, think in terms of weeks to a few months. Most randomized trials run for at least 4 to 12 weeks before measuring changes, and that is a good window for your personal check-in. Plan a lab test with your clinician about 8 to 12 weeks after you begin, and bring a food log from 3 typical days so your team can see what you're doing. If your LDL is still above goal, you and your doctor can adjust medication or add another change to your routine. If your pressure remains high, review sodium intake, activity, sleep, and medication timing. This is a steady, stepwise process. Safety matters, especially with fiber. When you raise fiber quickly, you may feel gas, cramps, or bloating. That doesn't mean the plan is wrong, it usually means the ramp is too steep. Increase the amount of flax, psyllium, or chia a little each week and drink enough water, unless your doctor gives you a fluid limit. If you take multiple morning medicines, ask your pharmacist for a simple schedule that spaces the highest fiber parts of breakfast away from pills that are sensitive to timing. Levothyroxine, for example, absorbs best on an empty stomach, and many clinicians advise taking it first thing with water and waiting before eating. Follow the instructions you received for your exact dose and timing. If you are on blood thinners like warfarin, diet consistency is important. Walnuts do not supply vitamin K in the same way leafy greens do, but always tell your clinic when you make a noticeable change to your usual intake so they can keep your tests steady. If you have chronic kidney disease, ask your dietitian about fruit portions and seeds, and make sure the plan fits your potassium goals. Let's step back and see what the evidence says in plain language. Oat beta-glucan reduces LDL when taken in amounts around 3 grams per day. That conclusion has enough support to be used on labels under U.S. law and is also accepted by European authorities. Psyllium lowers LDL in a dose-dependent manner when added to a heart-healthy pattern. Walnuts improve the ability of the artery wall to relax in adults with high cholesterol when they replace some of the fat in the diet. Blueberries often improve measures of vascular function in randomized trials, with blood pressure results that vary by group and duration. Chia brings small changes in LDL and systolic pressure at higher intakes across weeks. Plant sterols lower LDL by roughly 8 to 12%, at around 2 grams per day when eaten regularly with meals. None of these foods cancels the need for medication in people at high risk, but each one can support the plan and help you progress toward the LDL and blood pressure targets your clinician sets. All of this works best as part of your wider day. That means your lunch and dinner choices matter as much as breakfast. Focus on vegetables, beans, whole grains, fish or soy for protein, and olive oil or nuts for fat. Keep saturated fat lower by limiting processed meats, high-fat dairy, and fried foods. The American Heart Association and many national guidelines keep returning to the same core advice. Less salt, more plants, regular movement, and, when indicated, medication that lowers LDL to your personal goal. Your oatmeal bowl earns its place in that plan because it is simple, repeatable, and satisfying. When you wake up and cook the same heart-smart breakfast most days, you multiply the small advantage across months and years. That is how breakfast matters for arteries. To make this easy to start, think about a 4-week ramp. In the first week, commit to oatmeal 5 to 7 mornings and stir in 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed. Keep a small notebook and record the date, the bowl you used, and any symptoms. In the second week, add a teaspoon of psyllium at the end of cooking, and include berries 3 or 4 mornings. In the third week, add walnuts 2 or 3 days and chia on alternate days if you prefer that texture. In the fourth week, if your clinician agrees, add a plant-sterile product to reach about 2 grams per day across your meals. By the end of the month, you will have a routine that requires almost no thought and takes less than 2 minutes to prepare once the oats are cooked. Plan your follow-up with your doctor for 8 to 12 weeks after your start date. Bring your notebook, your home blood pressure readings if you track them, and your medication list. Ask whether your LDL goal has changed and whether your current numbers call for an adjustment to your prescriptions. This steady, measured approach is safer than jumping from trend to trend, and it respects the biology of how arteries heal. 2 common worries often come up. The first is about sugar. Many folks were raised on instant packets flavored with brown sugar or maple. Those can raise blood sugar quickly and add calories without the fiber benefit of whole fruit. With the add-ins we've discussed, sweetness comes from berries, cinnamon, and the natural flavor of nuts and seeds. If you need more sweetness, try a few slices of banana and adjust your total fruit at lunch or dinner. The second worry is about texture. Psyllium can thicken fast. The trick is to stir it in right before you eat, not during the simmer. If you still find it heavy, reduce the amount and build slowly over a week or 2. If a warm cereal doesn't appeal in summer, overnight oats still carry beta-glucan and allow the same add-ins in a chilled jar. That version pairs well with frozen berries that thaw in the fridge. If you are on a very low carbohydrate plan under medical supervision, discuss portion sizes with your clinician so your breakfast fits your overall targets. Before we leave this section, let me repeat key safety steps in plain language. If swallowing is hard for you, avoid dry psyllium or dry chia. Mix them into wet foods and drink water with the meal unless you have a fluid restriction. If you take morning pills that need an empty stomach, take them first with water and leave a gap before eating. Follow your prescribing instructions. If you take warfarin, keep your diet steady and tell your clinic if you add walnuts often so they can watch your levels. If you have chronic kidney disease, confirm fruit portions and seed choices with your renal team. If you have a planned procedure, tell your surgical team about all supplements and fortified foods you use, including sterols, so they can advise you on when to pause and when to resume. This way, your oatmeal upgrades help your arteries without causing surprises. When you book your next appointment, arrive with a plan and a few clear questions. Tell your doctor you're eating oatmeal most mornings and adding ground flaxseed, psyllium, walnuts, and berries. If you're considering plant sterols, ask whether they fit with your current medication plan. Bring a 3-day food log that covers at least 1 weekend day. Write down the exact amounts you usually stir into your oats. If you measure home blood pressure, bring the dates and numbers for 2 weeks. Ask for your LDL goal in writing and a time frame for rechecking labs. If you take levothyroxine, metformin, or a blood thinner, confirm the timing and spacing around high-fiber meals so your pills keep working as expected. If you have kidney disease, ask whether your fruit and seed portions need any adjustments to match your potassium and phosphorus targets. If you take ezetimibe, ask whether sterols would add anything to what the medicine already does. Your pharmacist can help you craft a simple morning schedule so pills and breakfast do not fight one another. In the kitchen, set yourself up to succeed. Keep oats, milled flax, and psyllium in jars near the stove. Keep frozen berries at eye level in your freezer so you reach for them first. Keep walnuts in a small container on the counter and measure out a handful before you cook. If mornings are rushed, cook a big pot of steel-cut oats on Sunday, portion it into containers, and reheat with water through the week. Stir in the add-ins right before eating so the texture stays pleasant. If you drink coffee with breakfast, that's fine for most people. but keep water at the table and drink through the morning to help fiber move comfortably through your system. If you struggle with appetite first thing, try a smaller serving and a mid-morning cup of oats with the same add-ins. The routine that you stick with is better than the perfect plan you abandon. For extra support, lean on credible sources. The NHLBI's web pages explain atherosclerosis in clear language and lay out prevention steps you can follow alongside your doctor's advice. The FDA's nutrition pages explain why certain packages carry a heart health claim for soluble fiber from oats or psyllium. The British Dietetic Association and European Food Safety Authority summarize the evidence for plant sterols and stanols and the amounts that lead to LDL changes. If you like to read primary research, PubMed entries for trials on walnuts and blueberry intake show how vessel function changed in people who kept these foods in their routine for weeks to months. When you see a claim on social media, compare it with these sources before you change your plan. The internet can be useful, but your numbers and your history deserve careful information. If you love oatmeal, you already have the base. Now make it count. Stir in ground flaxseed for steady fiber and plant omega-3s. Add psyllium to help bring LDL down a few more points. Sprinkle walnuts to support how your arteries relax. Top with berries to give your vessel lining a friendlier environment. Consider a plant sterol product if your clinician thinks that step fits your plan. None of this replaces the medication your doctor prescribes, and none of it replaces a day full of better choices, but it all stacks together. That stack is what lowers risk over time. Book your follow-up now for 8 to 12 weeks from your start date, and ask your doctor for your LDL goal and a pressure range to aim for at home. Bring your notes and your questions. Keep it simple, keep it steady, and let the small habit of a better bowl help you for years. If this guide helped you, subscribe for more clear, senior-friendly videos every week. Tell me in the comments which add-in you'll try first. If you want a printable one-page summary for your fridge, say printable in the comments, and I'll include it in the next upload.